course, ibang mga lawmakers nagsabi na rin po sila on why they are anticipating Ramil Madriaga's testimony. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes then vouched for his credibility dahil nakausap niya raw po in the past si Madriaga. But sa pananaw po ninyo, sir, again, nasabi niyo kanina he's the weakest link and it will be a self-destructing move sa House of Representatives. How confident are you na siya yung pinakamahina and it will be a fatal flaw for the House of Representatives to give him the stand?
Yeah, we are super confident. In fact, the analogy that I like to use is he's like a Trojan horse entering the city of Troy, except that VP Sara has nothing to do with him. So if they want to bring the Trojan horse into the city of Troy, we won't stand in their way.
Mataas ang ginagastos ng gobyerno. Ang mga negosyante, ang importante sa kanila, wag sila kung hindi ang ordinaryong Pilipino ang magbayad ng buwis. Kaya nagkasundo yung dalawa na sige, manatiling mataas ang ginagastos basta yung buwis manggagaling sa ordinaryong Pilipino. Sino ba ang nakikinabang sa mataas na VAT? Ang mga mayayaman. Bakit? Kasi imbes na ang mga mayayaman ang magbayad ng buwis, ang mga ordinaryong tao ang nagbabayad ng buwis. Kaya ang sinasalamin nito ay meron tayong mga economic policies sa ating bansa na pabor para sa mga mayayaman at kaya ko nga gusto sanang buksan ang issue ng campaign donors eh. Kasi doon natin nakikita without any dispute, malinaw na malinaw naman, sino ang mga backer ng mga politiko na inihahalal natin. At yun po ay mga malalaking kumpanya na nakikinabang sa mga polisiya ngayon ng Kongreso.
Good morning, everyone. Let's begin the virtual presser of Attorney Paolo Panelo. Sir, do you have any opening remarks for this virtual presser?
Yeah. So first, thank you all for joining. Good morning. I am Attorney Paolo Panelo. I am counsel for Vice President Sara Duterte in connection with the perjury complaint that she filed against Ramil Madriaga. In the call with me is Attorney Inigo Soriano, my partner in the Panelo Law Office. So
Morning,
thank you for joining us. We all know. So just to clarify, we're not part of the impeachment defense team of VP Sara. We're just her counsel for the perjury. However, since Ramil Madriaga has been subpoenaed to appear and testify on April 14 before the House Justice Committee, and it appears that they will proceed because there's no TRO issued by the Supreme Court in connection with the petitions for certiorari and prohibition filed with the Supreme Court. We want to take this opportunity to just give you, to give the public a preview the testimony of Ramil Madriaga and the evidence that we have against him. And then while I present these to you, please take note that these pieces of evidence, these testimonies that I'm going to preview to you have already been filed with the Office of the City Prosecutor of Taguig in connection with the perjury complaint. So, and these are all official documents, sworn testimonies. So these are not speculations or unverified information. Okay? Should I proceed, JC?
Sir, yes, sir. You can proceed,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay, so in the subpoena, specifically, the House Justice Committee wants Ramil Madriaga to testify on the allegation that he formed the Vice Presidential Security and Protection Group, and that he handled confidential funds with Colonel Raymond Lachica and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Nolasco, and then that he delivered these supposed confidential funds to various persons upon the instructions of VP Sara. So this is a summary. This is what you're seeing on screen is an exact quotations from the affidavit of Ramil Madriaga, particularly paragraphs 13 and 14. We start with his claim that he formed the VP-SPG. So sabi niya, he was tasked to form the VP-SPG. This is the group that is tasked to provide security and intelligence for the vice president. It's like the PSG counterpart of the office of the vice president. So sabi niya, he formed this VP-SPG, and in connection with that, he said that he introduced Colonel Dennis Nolasco to VP Sara, who allegedly was one of his students in the Presidential Security Group, and that it was Colonel Nolasco who tapped the services of Colonel Raymond Dante La Chica to head the VP-SPG. So, what was VP Sara's response in the perjury complaint? So, she denied that Madriaga had anything to do with the formation of the VP-SPG, and she said that the formation of the VP-SPG was a formal military initiative approved by then DND Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. And this process, of course, was entirely internal to the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the AFP, and the Department of National Defense, uninfluenced by outsiders lacking any official standing or authority in the military hierarchy, such as Madriaga. Bakit? Kasi si Madriaga, hindi naman siya military personnel, hindi siya taga-AFP, hindi siya taga-DND. So the point was, itong formation ng VP-SPG, this was a process internal to the AFP and DND, and Madriaga was never part of that. So imposible yung sinasabi niya. As proof of that, we presented in the complaint affidavit a DND memorandum from then Secretary Delfin Lorenzana on the approval and activation of the VP-SPG. And then also, the VP Sara's complaint affidavit is supported by the affidavits of Major General Jose Niembra, Brigadier General Randolph Cabangbang, Colonel Raymond La Chica, and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Nolasco, who all attest that Madriaga was never part of the PSG or the VPSG in any capacity, which disproves his claimed roles in those groups, or any suggestion that Madriaga was in a position to be involved or have influence in the formation of the VP-SPG. So we will give you copies of these materials later, but you will see even the complaint affidavit. If you want a copy of that, we can provide JC a copy of that for dissemination. But what you will see in the complaint affidavit and in these materials is these gentlemen that support the affidavit of VP Sara, the complaint affidavit of VP Sara. They were all connected with the PSG and the VPSG in the material dates that Madriaga claims he was part of those groups. So for example, Major General Jose Niembra and Brigadier General Randolph Cabangbang, they were part of the PSG from 2016 to 2022. So yun yung period that Madriaga claims that he was with the PSG. So they both say, we don't know that guy, and he's not, because of this criminal record, he's not qualified to work for us. Okay? And then you also have the testimonies of Colonel Raymond La Chica and Lieutenant Colonel Dennis Nolasco. Apart from that, we secured certifications from the Presidential Security Command. As you know, yung Presidential Security Group or PSG has since been reorganized or renamed to the Presidential Security Command. Meron tayong certification from them that says that no personnel in the name of Mr. Ramil Lagunoy Madriaga and or Mr. Ramil Lagonoy Madriaga that has been assigned employed detail or otherwise connected with the PSG or the PSC. Same thing for the AFP Security and Protection Group. This was formerly the VPSPG, but reorganized as the APSPG. They also issued a similar certification that no Ramil Madriaga has ever been a member or employed with the VPSPG. With respect to the allegation na si Madriaga daw ang nag-introduce and recommended Dennis Nolasco to VP Sara, this is impossible. VP Sara says this is impossible because hindi niya nga kilala si Madriaga. And it was actually Lieutenant Colonel Rene Giroy, former commanding officer of the PSG Second Presidential Escort, who was assigned to provide security for VP Sara when PRRD was still president, that introduced Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco to her. And it was also Lieutenant Colonel Giroy, who was then acting head of the VP-SPG, that facilitated Lieutenant Colonel selection as VP-SPG Deputy Commander. So Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco confirms this. And he also adds that Madriaga lacks any standing in the AFP or the PSG hierarchy to influence a personal decision like that. Kasi si Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco was designated as the VP-SPG Deputy Commander, which is the second highest position in the VPSG, only below the VP-SPG Commander. So Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco was explaining, Madriaga has no personality in the AFP or the PSG to influence a personal decision like that. And wala naman siyang relationship with VP Sara to be even in a position to introduce Nolasco to VP Sara. Next. So regarding the claim that Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco was the one that tapped the services of Colonel La Chica. So ito yung ang sinasabi ni Madriaga na kilala niya ay si Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco at renekomenda niya daw si Nolasco kay VP Sara para makapasok sa VP-SPG, tapos si Nolasco daw yung pumili kay Colonel La Chica to head the VPSG. So this is also not true. VP Sara testified in her complaint affidavit that Colonel La Chica was shortlisted by the AFP Senior Officers Placement Board based on his qualifications and selected based on merit. Si Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco naman explains that that notion is absurd. Siya yung pumili kay Colonel La Chica or nag-facilitate ng appointment ni Colonel La Chica to the VP-SPG because si Colonel La Chica is more senior to Dennis Nolasco in rank and in age by 10 years. So if you can imagine, the AFP is strictly hierarchical, and seniority, of course, is very important to the AFP. So it's absurd na somebody 10 years the junior of Colonel La Chica ang magfa-facilitate ng appointment niya to head the VP-SPG. At pangalawa, Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco also says that before Colonel La Chica was designated as VP's SPG commander in September 2022, hindi naman sila magkakilala. They had no opportunity to work together. So si Colonel La Chica in his own affidavit confirms all that. Okay, so dito yung mas we had to go through that kasi yung claim of Madriaga that he formed the VP-SPG, he wants that or he needs that to be true para itong mas importanteng allegation niya against VP Sara, which is nagtransport daw siya ng milyong-milyong pera upon instructions of VP Sara. Kailangan niya maging totoo yung claim niya na binuo niya yung VP-SPG for this allegation to be credible, to establish na kilala niya talaga si Colonel Nolasco and si Colonel La Chica. So he said in his affidavit, From July 2022 to April 2023, I worked with Colonel Nolasco and Colonel Lachica. Our work involved tactical transport services, securing VP Sara and other VIPs, conveying highly confidential information, and transporting large amounts of money to several persons as instructed by VP Sara. So what was VP Sara's response? This is impossible. Madriaga could not have worked with Nolasco or Lachica under my instructions or in any capacity because all of these tasks are handled exclusively by official government personnel assigned through government protocols. And Madriaga was never part of the Office of the Vice President, the Vice Presidential Protection and Security Group, Security and Protection Group, and the Department of Education. So there was no opportunity for them to work together. So as proof of that, we secured, apart from certification from the VP-SPG, nakakuha din kami ng certification from the OVP and the Department of Education that says that there was no Madriaga employed or connected with those offices. To go even a step further, because Madriaga claims na as early as 2018, when VP Sara was still mayor of Davao City, nagtatrabaho na siya sa kanya. We also got a certification from the Davao City local government. So that's all in the complaint affidavit that we can provide to you if you want to see that copy.
Okay, sir. Oh, let's entertain questions from our media partner, sir. First question.
Patapos na tong briefer, sorry.
Okay.
Para ma-cover natin lahat. Okay, so when we started publicizing VP Sara's defense to all of these, si Attorney Raymond Palad in one of his interviews said na wala siyang record sa gobyerno, si Madriaga, because hindi daw siya government employee, kundi personal aid or alalay daw siya ng pamilya Duterte. So our response to that is, one, afterthought yan, kasi in the affidavit, he clearly says that he worked for those government offices. Second, and sabi niya, and this is in connection with parang the evidence that we released a few weeks ago proving na hindi magkakilala si VP Sara and si Madriaga. Second, kung personal aid si Madriaga, bakit siya hindi na-invite doon sa inauguration ni VP Sara? Because that's what we've already proven. So third, walang tao na nasa circle ni VP Sara na kilala siya as nagtatrabaho for VP Sara. Tapos pang-apat, kung napaka-sensitive naman ng trabaho niya, secret employee siya, it doesn't make sense kasi post siya ng pictures kasama nung alleged boss niya, diba? So it doesn't make sense yung mga sinasabi ni Madriaga at itong si Attorney Palad. And then meron siyang in one of his alleged deliveries, sinabi niya nag-deliver siya ng white Vios with 80 million pesos inside tapos after delivering that to the SM Mega Mall parking lot, he saw daw the white Vios being driven by the wife of Ombudsman Prosecutor Ryan Ray Kilala, named Rhea, who was a classmate of VP Sara. So this is also impossible. We have the testimony of Attorney Ryan Kilala na one, hindi sila nakatanggap ng kahit anong kotse na may laman na pera na ganon. And then it's also impossible for Madriaga to see his wife driving because the wife doesn't know how to drive. She doesn't even have a license or has never had the license, and we've secured an LTO certification to this effect na never nagkaroon ng lisensya itong si Madriaga. Tapos ito naman, second to the last na to guys, meron siyang alleged delivery to a comedy bar owned and frequented by SSC Law alumni, that's San Sebastian Law alumni, located in the Timog area. Apparently, he saw the OVP spokesperson Reynold Monsayak, a former classmate of VP Sara, and he signaled for me to go upstairs and leave the money at the office. So according to Attorney Reynold Monsayak, the former OVP spokesperson, he was also acting PCGG chairman under the time of PRRD. That's absurd and entirely invented. He doesn't know Madriaga personally, and it just defies logic and common experience. In fact, Attorney Reynold Monsayak was part of the OVP at the time that Colonel Lachica, at the time that Madriaga alleges that Colonel Lachica instructed him to bring money to Attorney Reynold Monsayak to this comedy bar. So it doesn't make sense kasi magka-opisina si Reynold Monsayak at si Colonel Lachica. If, di ba, kung pag-iisipan lang natin, kung gustong magbigay ng pera from Lachica to Monsayak, they could have done that in the office or they could have met privately. It doesn't make sense to involve somebody with a criminal record like Madriaga to deliver it in a public place like a comedy bar. And then last slide, ano bang motive ni Madriaga? We have evidence, a text message or Facebook Messenger message from Madriaga to Lieutenant Colonel Nolasco on December 12, confirming that the allegations are pure fabrication. Bakit? Because in this text message, he was trying to convince Nolasco na mag-imbento ng kwento na yung confidential funds, si Nolasco daw ang nagbigay kay Madriaga. Tapos based on the text message, sabi ni Madriaga, siya na lang daw magpapaliwanag kung saan napunta yung confidential funds. And clearly, sinasabi niya dito sa text message na makakalabas siya ng kulungan kasi mag-state witness daw siya. So, yun, for us, this is clear evidence na gawa-gawa lang yung testimony against VP Sara, and there's a clear motive on Madriaga's part to do this, which is to get out of prison. So yun, that's what we prepared, and we can answer questions.
Okay, first question, Jason, SMNI.
Hello, Attorney Paulo. Sir, naririnig po ako?
Yes.
Attorney Pao, based on the evidence you have against Ramil Madriaga, ano po yung mensahe natin na nais iparating sa House Committee on Justice, especially ngayong na-invite na si Madriaga sa April 14 hearing? Sa inyong pananaw, sir, should they carefully consider before allowing Madriaga to speak and magpresenta ng mga umano'y evidence niya against the Vice President?
Yeah, we're not concerned na magte-testify si Madriaga sa House Justice Committee. Of course, I just have to make it clear, diba, that the impeachment defense team is challenging the jurisdiction of the House Justice Committee. They've gone to the Supreme Court to ask for a TRO and to ask the Supreme Court to void these proceedings. They also believe that the House Justice Committee has no power of subpoena. So, and we agree with that. Kaya lang, the situation is, nag-issue sila ng subpoena kahit hindi dapat pwede. Walang TRO, so sinabi na nila na itutuloy na nila sa Tuesday. So that's the situation. Para sa amin, as counsel for VP Sara in the specific perjury complaint versus Madriaga, we don't mind because we know that whatever he says are lies. And then in the proper forum, which is looking like the Senate, we can definitively prove that he's a fraud. So we don't have concerns that he's testifying. The only concern really is that baka may maniwala because I'm sure it's going to be amplified. Puro kalaban ni VP Sara yung nasa House Justice Committee. But kaya nga namin kayo inimbitahan ngayon para unahan na yung mangyayari sa Tuesday, which is to show you our side. Kasi actually, itong complaint affidavit ni VP Sara and the evidence that I just presented to you, that's all available to the House Justice Committee. And yet, when they talk about Ramil Madriaga, they talk about him like he's the smoking gun, he's the missing link to all of this. When really we think he's the weakest link. So we're not gonna, as counsel for the perjury case, we're not gonna stop them from self-destructing their case by inviting Madriaga to testify.
Sir, last question from my end, sir, since open yun na po yung pagdulog na ni VP Sara doon sa Supreme Court. Marami pong mga tumutulig sa Vice Presidente dito nga sa pagdulog niya sa Supreme Court at sinasabi na ito'y pagtakas po daw sa accountability and sinasabi po nila na tinatakbuhan ni Vice President Sara Duterte yung pagdinig ng House Committee on Justice. Your comment on this, sir?
I don't agree with that kasi handa naman si VP Sara eh. Pero handa siya sa patas na laban. So sa akin, in my opinion, and again, I'm not part of the impeachment defense team. I think sila yung takot, sila yung duwag kasi ayaw nilang lumaban ng patas kasi alam nila that in a fair fight, they can't defeat VP Sara either in the impeachment or in an election in 2028. Kaya they're having to resort to these abuses of power to gain an advantage against the Vice President.
Thank you, Attorney Pao.
Thank you, Jason. Next question, Manny Vargas, Super Radio, DZBB. Hey, Manny?
Hi, good morning po. Attorney Panelo, sir. Good morning. Manny Vargas po.
Morning.
Sir, una sir, pasensya na hindi ko po nasundan yung status po ng complaint na naisampanan niya sa prosecutor's office. Ano na po yung status niya, sir? Gumalaw na po ba yung prosecutor's office? Naisampanan na po ba ito sa kaso? And secondly, gaano po ka-importante yung magiging action po ng prosecutor's office sa inyo pong isinampang reklamo para mabigyan diin ito pong mga punto na ito against Madriaga? Thank you po.
So the current status is the complaint is still before the office of the city prosecutor of Taguig. It's ongoing. The preliminary investigation is ongoing. Siguro mga almost 3 weeks ago was the first setting for preliminary investigation. Humingi sila ng pagkakataon na so in that setting dapat magsasubmit sila ng counter affidavit but they weren't ready. So they asked permission for an extension and they were given until April 14, coincidentally, April 14 din, sa Tuesday din sila binigyan ng deadline to file a counter affidavit. But considering that he's been subpoenaed and he's going to appear on Tuesday sa House Justice Committee, mukhang hihingi na naman sila ng panibagong extension dito sa Office of the City Prosecutor of Taguig. Now, how important is the perjury complaint and the prosecutor, the Office of the City Prosecutor's action on it? Sa amin mahalaga because if they dismiss it, baka ang dating sa publiko is totoo pala yung sinasabi ni Ramil Madriaga. Pero kapag final nila yung complaint sa korte, sa RTC Taguig, nangangahulugan na merong basehan yung mga sinasabi namin na perjurious itong testimony ni Ramil Madriaga. Kaya, dahil napaka-importante niya, at nasabi ko na to noon, our complaint affidavit is 340 pages. VP Sara's own complaint affidavit is supported by 7 testimonies of other witnesses, and yun nga, maraming evidence, documentary evidence, kasi we wanted an airtight complaint para kahit na mapolitika itong complaint na ito, kasi of course the city prosecutor is under the DOJ, may hirapan silang utusan na i-dismiss. Or kaya pag utusan nilang i-dismiss naman, halatang minaniobra. Because as far as we're concerned, we presented an airtight complaint.
Attorney, sorry po, pahabol lang. Since you mentioned po na magpa-file sila ng counter affidavit nila sa April 14 kasabay nung pagharap niya sa House. Kung sakali po ba, sir, na may mga bago siyang sasabihin doon sa House na contrary po doon sa information na hawak ninyo, na pwede pang magpalakas ng inyo pong reklamo sa prosecutor's office, yun po ba'y pwede pang magbago or magsasubmit po kayo ng additional information against Madriaga doon po sa perjury complaint? Pwede po bang magamit yun?
Pwede, kasi actually one of our observations in the affidavit of Ramil Madriaga is marami siyang mga allegations doon na walang petsa, walang eksaktong petsa, walang mga pangalan ng mga taong pinag-deliveran niya, di umano, mga date, mga oras, ganyan. Walang specific details kaya hindi ma-verify or sadyang hindi ma-verify kasi masyadong broad. So, kung magpro-provide siya ng additional details sa House Justice Committee, talagang gagamitin namin yun against him. Kasi kumpiyansa kami na kahit anong sabihin niya, kasinungalingan. So, lalong madidiin siya pagka nag-testify siya sa House Justice Committee pag nagbigay siya ng additional details.
Sir, pasensya. One last po. Since nade-delay na nga po yung pag-proceed po, no? Kasi kinakailangan pa sir na yun nga, counter affidavit pa niya and then haharap pa sa Kamara. It is a welcome development po para sa inyo kung sakali man na Madriaga would be providing you additional information to file further or new information po sa prosecutor's office para mapalakas yung inyo pong perjury complaint against him. So ito pong tagal ng proseso sa prosecutor's office sa Taguig is not actually a situation na detrimental sa inyo pong issue, but rather on the other hand, pwede siyang makatulong para mas mapalakas pa yung reklamo nyo.
That's possible. Depending on what he says on Tuesday, it's possible na lumakas pa lalo yung kaso ni VP Sara sa kanya. Kasi yun nga, if he provides details, specific details that we can destroy, then better for us. Pero yung delays naman sa prosecutor's office, hindi siya masyadong mahalaga sa amin because the perjury complaint was never meant to stop him from testifying in the impeachment. Diba? Hindi naman makakapagpigil yung perjury complaint sa isang testigo na mag-testify sa impeachment. So it wasn't the objective. The objective was to make him accountable. At ipakita sa publiko na nagsisinungaling to, ipakita din, ibulgar sa publiko na yung mga politikong sumasakay dito kay Madriaga ay hindi pananagutan ng habol, kundi politika. Dahil walang credibility si Madriaga, wala din siyang ebidensya dun sa mga sinasabi.
Salamat po, attorney. Thank you.
Next question, Mav Gonzalez, Gemmy 7. Mav?
Hi, sir. Good morning po, Mav Gonzalez. Sir, you mentioned kanina that you think the proper forum would be the Senate. Are you talking about the impeachment trial, if ever, or you're calling on the Senate na magkaroon po ng parallel investigation like the House Justice Committee?
I'm talking about the Senate in the context na matagal nang sinasabi ng House Justice Committee members that they have enough numbers to transmit it in the Senate. So mukhang dun talaga papunta yung kwento unless the Supreme Court steps in. So the proper forum to address all of these allegations, it looks like would be the Senate as the impeachment court.
Sir, last na lang po. Kanina sinabi niyo rin po na hiwalay naman talaga itong perjury complaint dun sa impeachment na nangyayari sa House ngayon. But do you think that should you prosper in this perjury complaint, tatamaan talaga yung impeachment proceedings sa House?
Yes, if it happens quick enough, pero we have no illusion that the perjury complaint will be resolved before the impeachment trial starts. So wala talagang ganong objective eh. We were conscious of the fact that when we file a perjury complaint, most likely the resolution of that will be after the impeachment trial. So hindi naman yun yung objective, yung maging guilty siya right before or during the impeachment trial. That would be, of course, ideal, but that was never the objective. The objective was just to communicate to the people that this guy is lying and that the politicians, the congressmen, relying on his testimony to push this narrative against VP Sara are doing this for political gain, not for accountability.
Hi, good morning, attorney. Sir, Of course, yung ibang mga lawmakers nagsabi na rin po sila on why they are anticipating Ramil Madriaga's testimony. Former Senator Antonio Trillanes then vouched for his credibility dahil nakausap niya raw po in the past si Madriaga. But sa pananaw po ninyo, sir, again, sabi niyo kanina he's the weakest link and it will be a self-destructing move sa House of Representatives. How confident are you na siya yung pinakamahina and it will be a fatal flaw for the House of Representatives to give him the stand?
Yeah, we are super confident. In fact, the analogy that I like to use is he's like a Trojan horse entering the city of Troy, except that VP Sara has nothing to do with him. So if they want to bring the Trojan horse into the city of Troy, then we won't stand in their way. Yeah, wala talagang patutunguhan to kapag si Madriaga naging sentro ng kaso nila laban kay VP Sara.
And do you question the timing and the motive why suddenly biglang nabigyan ng pansin si Madriaga, especially ahead of the filing of new impeachment complaints kay Vice President Duterte?
Yes, also timing is questionable. One, because the confidential fund issue has been there since, was it 2023 or 2024? Pero lumabas lang siya 2020, late 2025 na as the deadline or as the 1-year bar for the filing of impeachments was about to lapse. So that yung timing, of course. Tapos ano pa ba? In terms of timing, pero ganun talaga di ba? Yung impeachment 1-year bar was supposed to lapse in Feb. So talagang kung may idadagdag sila, ihahabol nila yon. So consistent yung pattern na okay, lumabas siya ng December, tapos refer ng mga abogado niya yung affidavit niya sa ombudsman, tapos ginamit na dun sa mga impeachment complaints. Kami naman, Tristan, when we first spoke to VP Sara about filing a complaint against Madriaga, it was late January. So at that time, hindi pa siya nasasama sa impeachment complaint, but VP Sara was already inclined to defend herself and file a perjury or a criminal complaint against Madriaga because of his false testimony. And then when we prepared the complaint, nakita nga namin, grabe, sobrang sinungaling ng taong to. Walang basehan yung mga sinasabi niya. So, in a way, parang natuwa kami na sinasama siya sa impeachment complaint kasi talaga yan yung gagamitin yung basehan laban kay VP Sara. That will only expose you. Expose this entire process as a political process that has nothing to do with evidence and accountability. So that's the background of this, Tristan.
Okay. And the issue of safety, again, alam ko nasagot nyo na po paulit-ulit, but as far as the VP camp is concerned, hindi po kayo involved to any threats to safety kay Madriaga. Lalo na binigyan na rin po ng house ata siya ng custody or at least protection pag magte-testify siya doon po.
Wala, we have nothing to do with those safety threats, and considering nga na we feel that he's the weakest link, diba? In a way, you could say that he's our star witness. Diba? So we don't want anything bad to happen to him. We want him to testify. We want him to trip on himself, on his lies, for the world to see. So wala, it doesn't make sense for us to want him to be hurt or to prevent him on testifying. In fact, I've already said na kung may mangyari kay Madriaga, it might be his handlers or the people behind him because sila yung merong pinoprotektahan dito kay Madriaga kasi we feel that if he testifies, he's going to reveal himself as a fraud and eventually he might start pointing fingers kung sino ba yung nagtulak sa kanyang mag-testify. So if anyone has an interest in keeping him quiet, that would be the people behind him.
Sir, last na lang po. Who are his handlers sa tingin nyo and the people behind him?
We have no idea. We have our suspects. Of course, since this impeachment is driven by the vice president's political enemies, then any of them. Diba? I've commented before that based on the affidavit of Madriaga, considering may similarities dun sa matagal ng allegations ni Senator Trillanes sa Duterte family, like receiving money from the drug trade, pogo, magnetic lifters, ganyan. Bigla yung nasama dun sa testimony ni Madriaga eh. So, parang masyado namang coincidental and incredible for a person to have personal knowledge on all of those allegations that were previously peddled by Senator Trillanes. So we feel that he's involved in this in some way, but as far as direct evidence, wala pa. This is just a fair commentary based on the affidavit of Madriaga.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions? Herlene Delgado, ABS-CBN. Do you have any question, Herlene?
No, sir. Okay na po ako. Thank you.
John Manalo, Billionaire News Channel. Any questions? John? Miss Celine? GMA News Online. Okay. Miss Jillian, Inquirer, do you have any questions?
Hello po. Siguro kung wala naman pong ibang questions, confirm ko lang, sir, lahat po nung pinresent nyo today, tama po you mentioned na meron ng access dito yung house. So, kumbaga, they already know this beforehand, before sa
Yeah.
mangyayari on Thursday.
Yes, that's correct. I've confirmed with Attorney Poa that they included our perjury complaint, the perjury complaint filed by VP Sara against Madriaga, including all of its annexes, as an attachment of the answer ad cautelam.
Ah.
So, meron silang kopya nito. And in fact, si Congressman Chel Jokno referred to it in I believe, the first Justice Committee hearing in connection with his motion to give Madriaga additional security.
Okay po, sir. Thank you po. Yan lang po.
Any more questions from our media partners? I guess wala na, sir. Any parting words, Attorney Pao?
Please just let JC know kung kailangan nyo ng copy ng materials or even the complaint affidavit. We're willing to share that. So you don't have to trust what we say. You can actually look at the affidavits and the evidence we have. If you're just going to release it, just be conscious of Data Privacy Act. So you just make sure to cover personal information of anyone featured in those documents. And thank you for spending the morning with us.
Okay. Maraming salamat po. That concludes our today's virtual press room with Attorney Pao. Salamat po sa pagpunta. Happy Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney.
Salamat.
Thank you po.
JC, you wanna stay?
Yes, sir. I'll call you na lang, sir. I'll call you na lang po.
Okay, thank you.
Ko, importante sa kanila, mataas ang ginagastos ng gobyerno. Ang mga negosyante, ang importante sa kanila, wag sila kung hindi ang ordinaryong Pilipino ang magbayad ng buwis. Kaya nagkasundo yung dalawa na sige, manatiling mataas ang ginagastos basta yung buwis manggagaling sa ordinaryong Pilipino. Sino ba ang nakikinabang sa mataas na VAT? Ang mga mayayaman. Bakit? Kasi imbes na ang mga mayayaman ang magbayad ng buwis, ang mga ordinaryong tao ang nagbabayad ng buwis. Kaya ang sinasalamin nito ay meron tayong mga economic policies sa ating bansa na pabor para sa mga mayayaman. At kaya ko nga gusto sanang buksan ang issue ng campaign donors eh. Kasi doon natin nakikita, without any dispute, malinaw na malinaw naman, sino ang mga backer ng mga politiko na inihahalal natin. At yun po ay mga malalaking kumpanya na nakikinabang sa mga polisiya ngayon ng Kongreso. Para babaan ng VAT, kailangan mag-generate ng savings. Pero para dagdagan din ang ayuda sa mga affected sectors, then kailangan ng additional revenues pa galing sa mga buwis na hindi babayaran ng mga ordinaryong Pilipino. At ang offer kasi ng gobyerno so far ay 5,000 para sa mga PUV drivers kasama ng mga tricycle drivers. Pero so far, maraming mga tricycle drivers sa buong bansa hindi pa nakatanggap nito. At ang farmers and fishermen daw, 4.1 million of them, ay mabibigyan ng 2,325 pesos. At nakakalungkot nga na ipinagmamalaki ng ating gobyerno na magbibigay pa sila ng 2,325. Wala pong basihan sa pangangailangan ng mga pamilya nila ang halagang yan. Yan lang ang naa-afford ng gobyerno base sa ating budget. Pero kung madagdagan natin pa ang revenues from progressive taxes, then makaka-afford ang ating gobyerno ng mas malaki pang tulong para sa mga targeted sectors. Pero ako po ay medyo cynical din sa ayuda ng ating gobyerno ngayon dahil ang nakikita natin pag nakakausap natin ng mga tao sa ground, maraming mga hindi nabibigyan. At yung mga malapit lang sa mga political leaders ang madalas nabibigyan. At ito po ay nagiging isang paraan para maka-exercise ng political control sa iba't ibang mga lugar at system of patronage ang ating gobyerno. At ang lumalabas nga yan ang naging isa sa mga flagship programs ng ating administrasyon ngayon na sana tigilan at buksan naman ang discussions for more tax breaks instead of more ayuda.
Natigilan yung pagnanakaw, no? Yung number one.
Opo, pero ang paggamit ng ayuda as a means to control the political situation ay parang din pagnanakaw. Kasi ang ayuda ay dapat gagamitin para sa tao, hindi para sa political agenda ng mga politiko. Eh parang na rin sila nagnakaw ng pera ng bayan para pakinabangan ang sarili nilang interes.
Kung diretsong tanong, no? Pwede mo bang pangalanan sino yung humaharang dito? Kasi obviously, sangayon ako, talagang tanggalin na yung VAT na yan eh. Talagang perwisyo yan. Etong si Batman, talagang yan ang perwisyo eh. Pero dapat mabilis pa sa alas 4 yan. Dapat nung tumaas agad ang gasolina, talagang tinanggal agad-agad yan. So definitely, may humaharang dyan. Sino may influence? Sino ang ayaw matuloy ang VAT na yan? Baka pwede mo nang pangalanan, diretsuhin natin.
Okay. Ang aking panukalang batas para ibaba ang VAT last year ay sinuportahan ng karamihan ng mga miyembro ng Committee on Ways and Means. Pero ayaw ng committee i-schedule yung botohan nito hanggat hindi maaprubahan ng Department of Finance. At ang Department of Finance ay nag-submit ng position paper tutol sa pagbaba ng VAT at ang position paper na ito ay pinirmahan ni Secretary Ralph Recto.
So sa madaling salita, si Batman, tsaka yung mga tao niya ang talagang pumipigil nito.
Walang personalan, matter of fact lang. Hindi pinagbotohan pa ng Kongreso ang pagbaba ng VAT dahil sa position paper ng Department of Finance na pinirmahan ni Secretary Ralph Recto.
Ito bang committee nila Redon? Saan kaya to? Sangayon kaya sila dito sa...
Alam nyo, kaya gusto kong pagbotohan na ito sa Kongreso kasi walang congressman na on the record umaamin na ayaw nilang ibaba ang VAT. At I think kung malaman ng lahat ng mga constituents nila na may ganitong panukalang batas, kahit anong position paper ng Department of Finance, I think the people's will should prevail to lower the VAT.
Pero sa tingin ninyo, kung sakali lang na matanggal nga itong VAT, mababawas kaya to sa presyo ng gasolina? Kasi ako duda rin dito dahil humingi ng emergency powers tong presidente. Pero wala namang nangyari, di ba? Nag-grant naman yung emergency powers. So baka ito, sinasabi nila, wala din silang control sa presyo ng langis. Kahit alisin nila yung VAT, baka mamaya magbabawas lang sila ng piso, utang na loob pa natin.
Actually, totoo yan. Lalo na when it comes to the fuel excise tax. Kasi ang fuel excise tax ay binabayaran ng mga malalaking kumpanya at depende na lang sa kanila kung i-pass on ito sa mga consumers. Pero yung VAT naman, binabayaran natin sa ating mga resibo. Nakikita natin yung porsyento ng VAT. Kaya siguro yan ay mas makaka-translate into savings.
Baka itataas lang nila yung presyo kung kunwari na mas mataas, tapos aalisin yung VAT. Pero ang suma total, parang yung sale. Di ba minsan itataas lang nila yung presyo, kunwari isi-sale ng 20%. Pero ang total niyan, kasi hindi natin kontrolado itong mga, parang may kuntsabahan parang may monopoly.
Yun nga din yung lumalabas na isang possibility na may collusion ang mga gas companies sa kanilang mga presyo. Pero ang isang textbook solution dyan ay gumawa ka na lang ng gasolinahan at magbigay ka ng mas mababang presyo.
Ayun, maganda yun.
Pumasok ka na lang sa gas station.
Pangarap ko yun eh.
Comment na lang ako. Kasi nakapanood ko yung mga hearing mo. 2% lang yung mabawas.
Kaya gusto ko sanang gumawa ng mas malaki pang savings sa ating national budget o mas malaking karagdagang revenues. Kasi kahit kung 10% ng VAT natin, mataas pa yan kumpara sa ibang mga bansa. May mga OFW nga nagko-comment tungkol sa VAT sa kanilang mga places right now. And may ibang mga bansa, 5%, 6%. Kaya mas maganda kung mas malaki ang matitipid natin para mas ibaba pa ang VAT.
Kaya nga, nagulat na ako bakit 2% lang. Bakit hindi mo ka ginawa?
Yung 10 nga, ayaw nilang aprobahan eh. Lalo na kung mas
Sino
bababa
ba
pa.
yung mga hayop na congressman na yan? Baka may kumapangalanan.
Ganito po kasi,
Baka pwede mong pagsabihan yung
Baka
mga busy sa impeachment. Araw-araw impeachment nyo eh. Pero yung mga kasamahan mo, ayusin yung VAT. No?
actually napansin ko, ngayong Lunes, meron kami ulit pagdinig tungkol sa oil crisis. Tapos sa Miyerkules at sa Huwebes, meron din. 3 araw, pinilit na may hearing next week kasi sa Martes, may hearing naman tungkol sa impeachment. Kaya parang pinalabas nila na hindi lang impeachment ang ginagawa namin sa Kongreso kasi may mga hearing naman tayo tungkol sa oil crisis eh. Pero wala naman kalabasan yung mga hearing tungkol sa oil crisis. Kaya ang hope ko nga is magkaroon pa ng public clamor na hindi lang tayo magkaroon ng hearing for the sake of a hearing, pero magkaroon ng action which I can say concretely should be to vote on lowering the VAT.
Eh bakit hindi na lang natin gawin yung rally doon sa Batasan instead doon sa Luneta?
Teka, kailan ba ito mag-air? Live ba tayo?
Nakalive ko ano? Nakalive ko, hindi mo ba alam?
Teka. Dadalhin nga natin sa Lunes sa Batasan. Yun. Pero baka naman nakikinig sila at biglang nakaabang na sila pagdating namin doon.
Ako magkano kasama ako. Ako kakausap.
Sigurado ka ha? Pag wala, tanggalin
Ako
ko dito.
ako magpo-front liner, okay? Para mahirapan silang unawain ako.
Pero kaya tayo nagbe-build up ng public support para sa pagbaba ng VAT. Kaya gusto nga natin dalhin sa Kongreso sa Lunes at sa susunod na linggo ang panawagan ng mga ordinaryong tao na
hindi
ibaba
ba
ang VAT.
kayo, kasi napanood ko yung hearing nyo, yung secretary hindi rin umattend.
Nung pinoint out ni Congressman Irice na wala siya, umatenda siya.
Oo, yung sumunod.
Opo.
Oo. Hindi kasi alam naman natin na talagang matindi yung krisis sa ating na dinadaanan ngayon. Tapos sabi nga ng ngayong mother na February pa yan eh. Hanggang ngayon parang walang galaw na nangyayari. Sa akin sa tingin ko, tungkol kahit dun sa VAT na sinasabi ninyo na bawasan, bakit tila sa tingin ninyo ay ayaw talaga ng mga congressman? Anong pinakapunot dulo bakit ayaw nilang ibaba?
When it comes to congressmen, wala naman silang posisyon sa ayaw nila. Hindi lang nag-express masyado ng opinion ang ibang mga congressman kasi naghihintay lang sila ng direction mula sa liderato ng Kongreso na nakikipag-coordinate naman sa executive. Kaya yung minsan mga sinasagot na ang Kongreso kung ano yung gagawin. Hindi yung totoo. Lahat po ito ay in coordination
So-
with the leadership.
So ibig sabihin, it's really
Leadership.
Marcos.
Kung sino man si leadership,
So si Marcos talaga ang may ayaw na tanggalin itong, o bawasan itong VAT.
ang maaari naman natin i-analyze na behind not lowering the VAT is people who are there noon pa. Kasi ang VAT ay 12% naman noon pa, di ba? At ang ating pamahalaan ay siguro nakikinig na lang sa mga rekomendasyon ng mga tao na nandun noon pa.
Na si Recto kasama doon.
Pero
na siyang gumawa nung
Pero sino
VAT na to.
sino ba ang nakikinabang sa mataas na VAT? Ang mga mayayaman. Bakit? Kasi imbes na ang mga mayayaman ang magbayad ng buwis, ang mga ordinaryong tao ang nagbabayad ng buwis. Kaya ang sinasalamin nito ay meron tayong mga economic policies sa ating bansa na pabor para sa mga mayayaman, at kaya ko nga gusto sanang buksan ang issue ng campaign donors Kasi doon natin nakikita without any dispute, malinaw naman sino ang mga backer ng mga politiko na inihahalal natin. At yun po ay mga malalaking kumpanya na nakikinabang sa mga polisiya ngayon ng Kongreso.
Pero tanong, ito. Kung gusto ni Marcos na ibaba ang VAT, posible ba na agad-agad din sa Kongreso?
Sa tingin mo ba siya yung nagdedesisyon ngayon?
Hindi, buhay pa ba? Buhay pa. Hindi,
Tanong lang po yun. Tanong lang, nililinaw ko.
ang mga
Sa tingin ko, kung sino man yung mga nagpapayo noon pa na itaas ang VAT at manatiling mataas ang VAT, sila pa rin. Pero ang nangyayari ngayon, pinapanigan ng ating pamahalaan ang mga rekomendasyon at ang mga interes ng mga mayayaman.
Batanggenyo rin yun Di ba?
Opo, pero kahit naman ng mga individual na pabor sa mga polisiya, na pabor sa mga mayayaman, ay parang nagtatrabaho lang din naman para sa interes ng mga sumusuporta sa kanila. Kaya yun nga yung tunay na issue dito Hindi yung isang politiko, kung hindi ang ating gobyerno ay pabor sa mga mayayaman.
Hindi, pero sandali Kong, tatanong na iba, baka sabihin kayo ba Kong, wala kayong funder ng mga mayayaman?
Kaya ko po nababring up ito kasi hindi ako nakakapag-accept ng contribution mula sa sino man sa aking eleksyon. Ang actually mga campaign donation declarations ng mga politiko ay lahat sinungaling. Sinasabi nila na few million lang ang ginastos nila sa kampanya o natanggap nila mula sa mga donors. Pero sa katunayan, para ka maging senador, nowadays, average, baka kailangan mo ng 1 bilyong piso. Para ka maging congressman, baka kailangan mo ng 200 million pesos. Meron iba na mas mababa, meron iba na much, much higher for both positions. At ang iba naman dyan ay walang ganong pera. Kaya sila nandun dahil sa mga tao na after the election, sasabihan sila paano sila dapat bumoto pagdating sa mga issue tulad ng taxation.
Kong, di ba meron kang batas o yung bill na ibaba yung ng 10% yung VAT natin? Bakit Ipaliwanag mo nga bakit hindi matuloy-tuloy yan?
Kasi nga, sinasabi ng lahat gusto nila pero hindi naman kinakalendar para pagbotohan.
Pero sabi mo kung muntik na parang muntik nang matuloy na biglang ano bang nangyari?
Kasi
dyan?
nagsulat ngayong Department of Finance na masyadong malaki ang mababawas sa ating mga tax revenues kapag bawasan ng VAT. At sinusundan naman ng Kongreso ang rekomendasyon ng Department of Finance kahit na ang sinasabi ng ehekutibo ay bahala na ang Kongreso sa gagawin nila.
Hindi ko kasi magets yung ibang bansa. Tayo kasi ang may pinakamataas, 'di ba? Alam naman natin 'yan. Tayo ang may pinakamataas na VAT dito sa Southeast Asia, 12%. Pero yung ibang bansa na mas mababa yung VAT, mas maunlad sila. Unlike sa atin, ang taas-taas, pero bakit ganito tayo ngayon? Ano sa palagay mo?
Kaya nga tayo hindi maunlad dahil imbes na umikot sa ekonomiya ang kinikita ng mga ordinaryong Pilipino, binubuwisan natin sila para mapondohan ang mga proyekto ng DPWH, tapos yung kita naman ng mga proyektong yun ay dinadala sa ibang bansa. Kaya nung tumaas ang ginagastos ng ating gobyerno, imbes na tumaas ang ating GDP growth, bumagsak pa. At ang lumalabas, for every peso of government spending, minus yan sa growth ng ating ekonomiya.
So parang ang lumalabas dito kung yung mga negosyante talaga ang may ayaw.
Hindi, meron portion dito para sa mga negosyante, which is yung kinokolektang buwis ay manggagaling sa ordinaryong Pilipino. Pero meron din portion para sa mga politiko, which is kung ano man ang kinokolekta, inilalagay sa mga proyekto na pinapakinabangan ng mga politiko. So, both businessmen and politicians will benefit. Yung natatalo, yung mga taxpayers.
So ibig sabihin kong kaya ayaw nila ipatanggal yan kasi talagang pinapakinabangan nila o rekta sa bulsa nila, ganun.
Ang mga politiko, importante sa kanila, mataas ang ginagastos ng gobyerno. Ang mga negosyante, ang importante sa kanila, wag sila kung hindi ang ordinaryong Pilipino ang magbayad ng buwis. Kaya nagkasundo yung dalawa na sige, manatiling mataas ang ginagastos basta yung buwis manggagaling sa ordinaryong Pilipino.